As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We have an important returning guest today. Alasdair Macleod, Head of Research for Gold Money, and goldmoney.com, is here with us again on Reluctant Preppers. He's going to talk with us about BitGold, a gold money account, and gold money storage. He's going to talk to us about what the trade-offs are for how we can take care of our assets and what's going on also in Britain and the gold markets. Alasdair, thank you for joining us again here on Reluctant Preppers.
It's my pleasure.
It would be remiss of me having the advantage of having you with your British location and perspective and understanding culturally to not ask you, for the interest of our viewers, what is the current situation? We're quite a bit down the road here from the Brexit vote that was such a earth-shattering change, or at least revealing a change in people's sentiment recently. But if you could give us a view of what is playing out there in the fallout from that, and any other developments that give us a perspective of what's going on across the ocean from the U.S.
Right. Where do we start with this one? Ahead of the Brexit vote, the establishment, if I can call it that, basically the government, the Office of Budget Responsibility, would you believe, which was meant to be independent, and our central bank, the Bank of England, all came out with doom, gloom, pestilence, everything else if we had the temerity to vote to leave the European Union. It's, we then vote to leave the European Union, and what happens? Life goes on as normal. We've had quite a nice summer here. There's been a bit of chatter about how the fall in sterling has encouraged exports and all the rest of it. I don't think that so much. What it has done is it might on the margins have encouraged people to buy yachts from our sort of yacht makers in the southwest. It will have encouraged perhaps some tourists to come here. It might have encouraged some people not to go abroad. So in that sense, there probably has been a bit of a benefit. But otherwise, I can actually see absolutely no difference in the economy post-Brexit compared with pre-Brexit. If anything, it's just a bit more busy.
That's quite interesting. And what about people divesting themselves of the pound? Are you seeing that?
Well, there was a sudden sort of collapse in sterling on the vote. I mean, it went very quickly down to about 130 to the dollar, and it's currently about 133. So, no, I mean, there was a markdown, and that was about it. I would say there are some considerable concerns about the UK economy, but it's got actually nothing to do with Brexit. Sterling seems to have stabilized. The foreign exchanges through the month of August actually have been pretty uninteresting. I think volumes have dropped quite significantly. I saw a report somewhere that volumes have dropped by something like 17% on average. It's summer doldrums, I guess. Banks, particularly investment banks, haven't been putting more resources into their businesses. If anything, they seem to have been contracting. So in a sense, there's been a sort of ebbing of the tide in financial markets. But within that context, nobody's really challenged current values very much.
Leading on into what's actually happening in global markets, if you could talk to us from you are head of research there at Gold Money, if you could talk to us about the global economy, the trends, any key events you see upcoming, and what specifically you see playing out relative to gold and silver, precious metals.
Yeah, I think we're at a crossroads, which is interesting because the central banks have now begun to admit that all their activities in terms of extraordinary actions, whatever you like to call it, but basically throwing fiat money or bank credit at our economic problems, which they define as lack of growth, that hasn't worked at all. They're now looking for governments to do that. And I suspect that at the G20 meeting in China last weekend, that was probably the major topic of conversation. We've seen, for example, the ECB yesterday. They haven't come up with anything else. They can't really come up with anything else. And effectively, I think Mario Draghi is saying, governments, you've got to do your bit. Same in Japan. They can't do any more in Japan. I'm talking about the Bank of Japan as such. So governments, I think, are going to be encouraged into infrastructure spending. And this is going to be highly inflationary because the effect of monetary inflation coming out of the central banks has basically been to puff up asset prices in the finance sector, the financial sector. It's money that hasn't really gone into the economy except in a peripheral sense. But if governments start increasing their budget deficits by spending, as it were, actually spending into the economy, then I think inflation is going to really start to move quite quickly. So I see us moving from, if you like, the inflation of asset prices into an inflation of ordinary everyday goods and services prices. That is going to be, I think, the story through 2017. If I am right about that, then that is obviously going to be very, very good for precious metals. And we've had in August, again, as I remarked about foreign exchanges, things have been very quiet. They were very quiet in the precious metals market in August. The last week of August saw some option expirations, and the banks were very keen to keep the price as low as possible so that options wouldn't be, on the call side, wouldn't be exercised. Then, of course, you had the month-end effect. Now that's out of the way. Suddenly we found this week the price of gold moved up quite smartly. It's been consolidating because it was a very sharp move. So the consolidation over the last 2 or 3 trading sessions, I think, is to be expected. But overall, I think we're beginning to move into a time when precious metal prices tend to perform reasonably well in the annual calendar anyway, because there will be Asian demand ahead of wholesale demand, if you like, ahead of holidays like Diwali in India and so on and so forth. And I suspect that a combination of that plus this moving over from trying to, or effectively generating inflation in the in financial assets, and that beginning to move towards an outlook for higher inflation in for goods and services, I think will be seen as good for gold.
This leads us to our next main question of the interview, and that is, if you could talk to us about the ability that you provide and the tools that you provide through what was called BitGold and gold money accounts, and you can explain to us the distinctions there for people to make sure that when inflation occurs, they don't lose their purchasing power. We've certainly wrestled with that in our own household after we got burnt badly in the original, .com stock bubble burst, and then later on in 2008 collapse. We just had wave after wave of basically losing our savings, and through the asset collapses. And in some cases, in the case of the 2008 collapse, it was actually freezing of our accounts that were damaged by the Lehman Brothers collapse, even though it was supposed to be, money market equivalent, 1 or 2 day access to your funds. It ended up being 8 years, so we were able to get the last dollars of our money back. So also talking with elderly family members who are looking at, they can't get any yield from certificates of deposit. They're not sure if the economy is unstable, that they're comfortable leaving their assets, their large cash balances in savings account. So can you talk to us about what people can do to both protect themselves from loss of buying power, but also have truly ready access to their funds if they need them? Because that's the other question people ask is so unfamiliar. If I buy gold and silver, then what do I do when I need to go, buy something or spend or make payments?
Yeah, sure. The problems you've just elaborated on are actually exactly the problems that we try and solve for people. The principal point, I think, behind it, which is probably more important than the gold price as such, is the fact that when you hold gold through gold money, whether it's in in a storage account held under our wealth services or whether it's under our personal services, I'll explain the difference in a moment. The point is that the gold is still your property. We are not a counterparty to you. We hold it in custody for you in a vault of your choosing. Now, this is fundamentally different from the situation where you have a bank account, because in a bank account, you may think that you have your money in a bank. You don't. What happens is that you have handed over your money to the bank, and the bank owes it to you. So if the bank goes bust, you are basically queuing with all the other creditors. I mean, obviously, if you're a small, if you're a small depositor, let's say less than I think it's $120,000 or something in the United States, then there is a protection scheme. But nonetheless, you don't, I would argue, want to have all your eggs in the basket of relying on the government or a quasi-government agency to bail you out if your bank goes bust. So we operate two accounts within that context, of the context of you actually retaining possession of your gold in our custody. I mean, the point is that if for some reason we were to go bust, you would still have your gold. That's the important thing. We operate two accounts. We have, well, it's three in total, but the two maybe concern most of your listeners. The first is the Gold Money Personal Service, which was it was previously branded as BitGold, because we've rebranded the whole thing into the Gold Money name now. Now, under the Gold Money Personal Service, what that does is it allows you to put money into your account in virtually any currency now. It's a very wide range of currencies. And that is then converted into gold, which is held in a location, in one of the vaults. You'll be offered a choice of vaults in a location of your choice. And these basically, I think it's about 10 or 11 vaults around the world operated by Brinks. We take a 1% commission on the deal, and we then cover all your insurance charges and your vaulting charges so that you get those effectively as part of the service for free. Again, to use that facility, you're also offered a MasterCard. It's rather like a preloaded card. So if you want to spend your gold, you can sell some, load your card, and then you can spend it off your card. And that is a preloaded MasterCard, which you can use in any outlet almost anywhere in the world. So that operates rather like a current bank account, but with the big difference, and that is that the deposit is owned by you. It is not owed to you by the bank. The Gold Money Wealth side is the original Gold Money offering, and that is the facility to hold not just gold, but gold, silver, platinum, and palladium in an account, which is effectively, I mean, it operates on the same basis, but effectively it's rather like, the personal account is like a current account, the wealth account is like a deposit account. You would have the bulk of your investment in precious metals held in the Gold Money Wealth account. So that, if you like, is the distinction between the two. And the system is somewhat different as well, because the Gold Money Personal account, which was, started off as BitGold, is set up somewhat differently from the original Gold Money service, which is now the wealth account. So that explains the difference between the two. We also have in the middle of that Gold Money Business. Now, if you want to run your business so that you can be paid in gold, be paid in currencies converted into gold, pay out in gold, pay out in currencies converted from gold, then the business account might work for you. It's rather like when Bitcoin was really sort of getting popular, a number of businesses decided that they wanted to run some of their accounts at least in Bitcoin. So please don't confuse us with Bitcoin. It's a completely different system, completely different everything. But the point is that if you want to run your business in gold, which actually could be material, because if we are right and there has been a real crisis, there will be a real crisis in ordinary currencies and in the banking system, then it could be worthwhile for you to have a business account with us.
Makes sense. And just clarifying back on your first one, the Gold Money personal account, which may be the most applicable to many viewers, the 1% fee that covers both insurance and storage, is that an annual fee, and is it based on some kind of average balance, or what is that?
No, it's on transactions. So as you buy, it's 1%. As you sell, it's 1%. And that's it.
Very good. And between these, then, so just again to reiterate for people, the term BitGold that they've been hearing for the last several months is now rebranded Gold Money Personal Account.
That is correct.
And one thing I didn't key in on when you were describing it is the gold that you own in that account that remains in the individual's ownership, and it's being in custodial storage. Is that is if someone wants to obtain physical possession of that directly, is it in segregated storage, or is there what are the characteristics of that storage?
Yes, that can be arranged. Obviously, there is a cost involved in that, but that can be arranged. And the way it works is quite simple. Gold is fungible, as you know. Most of our storage would be in 400-ounce bars. In accordance with the LBMA standard. So technically, your gold will be a small part of one of those bars. If, on the other hand, you want to take physical possession of your gold, then we can arrange that either in smaller bars or in little bit gold cubes, which we do. And obviously, the cost of doing that would be borne by you, and the cost would depend somewhat on where you are, as it were, because it's one thing, let us say, to deliver in North America. It would be another thing to deliver if you lived in, say, the Philippines or something like that.
So just recapping, if people have a Gold Money personal account, they can move. Can they move some of their main gold from their Gold Money wealth account into their Gold Money personal account to make so that they keep a smaller amount ready for spending? Then
yes, they can, and that's the intention is to effectively provide, if you like, a metal-backed equivalent of a full banking service in that sense. In the sense of deposit and current account equivalents, if you see what I mean. So that can be done. Obviously, if you hold silver or platinum group metals, that is unsuitable for the personal account, so you can't transfer those over.
Because the personal account is gold only.
Exactly.
So this really brings people, the Gold Money personal account really brings people the ability to have the ability to spend or add to in incremental amounts their gold while being able to have instant access to the value of it at any time and from any location.
That is correct, yes.
And it's being held for them in secure custodial storage in one of several locations.
That's correct.
Well, you've really cleared up that for us, Alasdair, and I think that it may be of significant interest to a number of our viewers. We've already had some of them comment that they had their Gold Money account, so we thought we had to get this information out there for everyone else who wants to find out more about it. We just thank you for clearing that up for us and for giving us your perspective on what's going on both in the global economy, in Britain specifically, and in the gold market. So, Alasdair Macleod, Director of Research at Gold Money, thank you for joining us on Reluctant Preppers.
It's been very much my pleasure.